Top Gun Maverick. Over 30 years after graduating from Top Gun, Navy Captain Pete Maverick Mitchell is a test pilot. At 60 years old, he's a test pilot. Despite winning major awards and commendations, repeated insubordination has kept him from advancing. Although Iceman, a former rival from Top Gun, and now commander of the Pacific Fleet, protects him and keeps him as a 60-year-old test pilot. Until Ed Harris's Rear Admiral cancels his test piloting in favor of drones. So, 60-year-old test pilot steals a hypersonic jet and flies it to its maximum capacity, proving that it can be done, thus saving the program by destroying a $1 billion, $5 billion super secret supersonic aircraft. Iceman saves him again by sending him back to Top Gun school, where he's going to teach a bunch of kids how to Top Gun their way into a unsanctioned or uranium enrichment plant that sits deep in a depression at the end of a canyon, protected by surface-to-air missiles and fighter pilots that we can't compete with. As if there were such a thing. Because there isn't such a thing. This is such blatant military propaganda. Don't give us too much money for drones, but definitely give us money for drones. But there's fighters out there that'll sneak up on us and get us. Give us more money. Maverick devises a plan to attack with 2 pairs of F-18s, which is like 2010 technology. 60-year-old test pilot Maverick out dogfights the skeptical students to win their respect. Hangman and Bradshaw, son of Goose, clash. Maverick has a little love affair with his girlfriend. It's not too bad. It's not too much of a love story, really. For an action movie, it was tolerable because Jennifer Connelly is hot, and a woman that owns her own bar and sailboat is pretty hot. Iceman dies, and then John Hamm kicks Maverick off the test pilot team because he's hella old, and he just dumbs it down so that the mission can be accomplished, but everybody dies. So instead of allowing that to happen, Maverick again steals an F-18, which is at least a couple $1 million, and flies the mission on the test track successfully, proving that it can be done and lives can be saved. And then John Hamm is like, all right, well, you leave me at this awkward moment where I have to either send a 60-year-old test pilot on a mission or quit. So he sends 60-year-old test pilot on the mission, who picks the other teammate, and he ends up saving them by sacrificing himself. And then that one he saved, Rooster, comes back to save him. They have a funny little moment. It's pretty good. And then they sneak onto this air base for the unnamed enemy. They steal a F-14 Tomcat, Top Gun, emblazoned with some nebulous enemy's logo that's very similar to the Nazi logo, Nazi-ish imagery. It looks like Hugo Boss drew it. Then they get back, they steal the plane, they fly back to the aircraft carrier, dodging a, 5th generation stealth fighter that could totally wipe them out. Later, Maverick and Rooster work on his fancy old airplane. Rooster looks at a photo of their mission's success, pinned alongside a photo of his father, as Penny arrives and Maverick takes her for a ride in the plane, and they live happily ever after. Yeah, so that part was bullshit, because if you've ever held a flashlight for your father, there's a lot of, God damn it, do it right! And our government is so cheap that if they could do missions with F-18s, they would. They wouldn't spend billions of dollars developing stealthy fighters that could fuck all that up, That was ridiculous. This story is dumb. I didn't like the music. There's only one part in the whole movie that the music wasn't why don't you literally just use the soundtrack from Top Gun? You didn't even use B-sides. The only good part I felt that was in the soundtrack was the football on the beach. That was a pretty good song choice. Overall, the acting's pretty it's kind of throughout the whole thing, but it's kind of not a lot of opportunity for acting. It's yes sir, no sir. It's okay though. I mean, it's not bad. Maybe they just had too much time to edit. I know they filmed that movie in 2019, because when I was working on Ford versus Ferrari, they were looking for people I'm pretty sure, because the only real big crowded scene was that end scene when they land And everybody's like, yeah, all the crew guys, they're surrounding him. Like, that's the only scene that I can think of where they either wouldn't be using like the genuine article, like the actual guys, because it would be entirely unsafe to be using background actors, or maybe like a bar scene. That's it. Otherwise, it's just like most of the scenes are just the cast, and the cast is huge. So, and I don't understand why they didn't really explain why Tom Cruise and Rooster neither one had like the guy in the backseat. Like all the other teams, like the two other planes had like 2 people in the plane, whereas these 2 only have themselves in the plane. So they didn't explain that at all, which was weird. And I like Miles Teller. Again, he's a good actor. I feel like he either like watched Top Gun a zillion times just focusing on Anthony Edwards, or like actually went and hung out with Anthony Edwards to get some kind of mannerisms, because I don't think he looks like Anthony Edwards at all, but with the haircut and the mustache and his mannerisms, I bought it. Totally bought it. I mean, you don't look like Bailey, but I bought it. I think he's a good actor. I like the Hangman guy. He was adequately, cocky. Like, he's just like all cocky. Tom Cruise. I like Tom Cruise. I think that he needs to move on from playing 40-year-olds. I think he needs to move on to teachers and professors or something. Like, he doesn't really look like book smart, but he could. I mean, he's a good actor. He could figure it out. He's a good actor. Reprising his role after so long, I mean, he's not that guy anymore. He's not cocky like that guy. He's not, so full of himself. Like, the Hangman guy is way more Maverick than Maverick. He's good in Jack Reacher. The first one. The second one kind of just puts me to sleep. The first one was good, like that. Second one was just like, why is this putting me to sleep? Jennifer Connelly looks great. She looks like, at first she doesn't look like Jennifer Connelly. At first it looks like somebody else, and then sometimes she looks like Jennifer Connelly. Like, I don't know. It's just weird. I don't know what's going on with that. But I love her. She is such a good actor. She is just crazy. She is so good. She's so good. Like, I saw her in this movie that her husband directed, and that guy who's great from Adjustment Bureau, Mackie. The Mackie dude plays like this homeless guy, and she plays this homeless crackhead girl, and she was so method. She was so fucking method that she was walking up to people, like, just not even in the background. Like, she would just be walking up to random strangers in Astor Place, right? Like, the busy ass part of Lower East Side, and they were giving her change. Like, they bought it. Like, she was so legit. So she's a good fucking actor. Her kid's good. The other fighter pilots are fine. They're not in it a lot, so they can't really stand out. The action sequences are great. The fighter pilot choreography guy is great. The opening, stuff was kind of weak, but like, when they get into it, like an hour in, once they start getting into it, like once they get into like the battles and stuff, like the test pilot-y stuff is kind of okay if you're in the theater. If you're in the theater, it's great because it's so loud and like vibrating and stuff, and like zoom, 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 but like watching it on a television or something is not going to be as awesome. The CGI is really great. They clearly had from 2019, like June-ish 2019, 2021, 2022. They had 3 years to filming to release. So I don't know. I feel like maybe they spent too long on editing sometimes. Could be. Maybe they just had too long with it. If they had like a deadline, they wouldn't have had so much time to think about it. They were just double guessing, and just chopping it into military propaganda. It's great military propaganda. I'm sure the numbers for recruitment in the military, Navy, and Air Force is probably going to skyrocket. The fact that they're trying to pretend like some other country, some other enemy out there has better shit than us is silly. Look at Russia, okay? They're invading Ukraine with shit from the Soviet Union, which went out of business in the 80s. They're eating 20-year-old rations. Like, clearly The guy has been using what he said was going to the military to build his giant fucking palace. Clearly that military budget was not used for military shit and was used for his billion-dollar boat. Like, what are you, like, come on. Like, if you want to take out Russia, it's a great time because they have proven that their shit is weak, all right? They have proven they are working with, like, 40-year-old equipment, dude. Unless the same is true of us, great time to go get them. Am I advocating for, taking out a dictator, a fascist dictator who is invading neighboring countries and emboldening other people in other countries to join his crew? Yeah, dude, I totally am. Because you know what? History repeats, all right? Just take a look back, all right, to when my grandmother was 16, and you'll see what the hell I'm talking about. Like, great time, before they start, like, targeting. If there were as many transgender people as there are Jewish people on the planet, they would be the new Jew. Trust this. Trust this. I don't know. It's military propaganda. It's like, oh, but there's a bad guy out there, and he's got better weapons than us, so you better give us all the money. Even though they have, like, all the money. Look at social services, how much your pensioners get, how much to keep the, the elderly off the streets. What do they get? $800 a month? $1,300 a month? Something like that. Meanwhile, the military budget in this country is more than, like, the GDP of, like, a few countries. Okay? So we have plenty of money. All right? We just spend it on stupid fucking shit. We give it to people who don't fucking need it. All right? When was the last time, a famous person paid for some shit? Like, if Jeff Bezos paid, like, any federal taxes, like, we could, like, build mad schools, We could have better educated neighbors that won't steal your shit, You want to end crime? End poverty, all right? We have the money to do it. You're just letting fools like this dude hoard it. You're letting them hoard it, right? Rich people in this country used to build schools and hospitals and have roads and bridges named after them and universities and shit. And now they just hoard it. They send it over to other countries so they can't be taxed or whatever. They hide it. They buy giant ass boats through corporations so that it's like a holding instead of a personal property tax. Like, yo, dude, like, these fools who can afford to pay for some shit don't have to pay for shit. Meanwhile, they have, like, fools making minimum wage propping up, the infrastructure of this country. You wonder why bridges are going to fall down. You wonder why that shit happened in Pennsylvania. You wonder why that shit happened in, that place right there. You wonder why that shit happened. You know what? Because rich people be greedy, right? You didn't raise your kids right. The silent generation fucked up, all right? For Generation X, whoever the fuck, I don't give a fuck. You guys, all you assholes that decided, oh, I could raise money by making everything taste like shit. You know why I don't eat at fast food restaurants? Because it doesn't taste right. It doesn't taste the same. That shit used to be good. Be worth the money that you paid for it. And now it, like, tastes like absolute shit. Like, the pancakes at McDonald's taste like actual cardboard. You feel hungrier after you eat them than if you hadn't eaten them at all. It's ridiculous. And that's, like, the only reason they did that shit was to make more money, right? Some asshole's like, oh yeah, we're just like, I could make more money if we just use shit ingredients. And then I use that money as a bonus. And then I could buy a boat, but I'll buy like 10 boats. And what do they get after the boat? I don't know what I'm going to do. I'll buy an island. What else? I'll buy a hovercraft. Go to outer space. Like, what the fuck, bro? Like, come on. You're trying to go to outer space and shit is all kinds of fucked up down here. We need those resources down here, not out there. Pay your fair share or shut the fuck up. Don't fucking complain about $10,000 a year fools not paying a lot in taxes, okay? They literally can't afford it. Meanwhile, Warren Buffett pays less in taxes than his freaking secretary. And he's in charge of how much she makes. So don't act like you're not party to the fucking problem, bro. So, fuck a bunch of military propaganda. Spend that money where we need it. And I give this movie, I give the action sequences 7 out of 10. I give the movie overall a 5 out of 10, just because it's like, you know, the action's great, but otherwise it's kind of stupid. Acting is fine. One thing, though, like Ed Harris is great, but any aircraft that's going to fly over something and lift the top off of a guard tower is going to blow the dude out of the fucking way. Octogenarian will be dead. Okay? Meanwhile, his stunt double was like just standing there, like clearly it was like a practical stunt. But I mean, nah.